Hi, this is Zach May with the Bulletin Board Heroes here at Zach's Traders Cafe for Tuesday, the 9th of September. Starting off with the FTSE 100, which has had an RSI 50 plus rebound. We obviously had the dip below RSI 50 to start the month, but bouncing off the floor of the channel quite well. The floor of the channel currently 91.40. Above that, we're looking at the top of the channel, heading for 94.50 as soon as the end of next month, perhaps even sooner. Decent support coming in at and above the 9200 level, so that gives us confidence that we could be on our way to fresh record levels. RSI in the upper 50s is almost perfect for fresh move to the upside. If there is a rug pull, the 50-day line there at 90.86. Possible destination, we haven't been back below that since the beginning of May, so very, very strong market. Obviously, despite the economic and governmental aspects that we have at the moment, or political aspects perhaps. Moving on to the DAX, and here we had, from memory, a decent bounce to the upside yesterday, which doesn't seem to be there on the chart, but got the support line there from back in the early part of 2024, the support line resting 23,500. Above that, we're looking for the 50-day line there, 24,000, and best case is up to 25,600 by the end of next month, which is the top of that rising trend channel from the middle of last year. The negatives at the moment are the way that we have the 50-day line, well, not quite falling, but not looking great. And also we have the RSI well below neutral 50. We've had 3 RSI failures below neutral 50, so not a great look. And that is something that maybe implies that we might have to test the 23,000 area, which was basically the June support and old March, April resistance before we head higher, if we do indeed head higher. If you're really cautious, just wait for an end-of-day close above the 50-day line there over the near term. Moving on to the Dow, and here it's been all about the 45,000 level, which we managed to hold, but we've tested it as new support. Above that, we're looking for the top of the channel as high as 47,500 by the end of next month. Downside would be the 50-day line, 44,600. And the positives here are the 3 RSI 50 rebounds above neutral 50. That is tends to be a leading indicator on the upside, especially when you've got 3 of them, and all well above the neutral 50 level. Onto the cryptos, starting off with Bitcoin, and here making some progress here. That we bounced off the floor of the channel there from back in March. Floor of the channel currently around 109. Above that, looking for a minimum at the 50-day line, 114. RSI is pushed above neutral 50, which is a positive. We just need that and the 50-day line to be conquered. And we could be looking at the top of the channel there, up to as high as 130,000 by the end of next month or even sooner. Worst case on the downside at the moment is the 200-day line, 101. Which is basically post-June support for this market. Onto Ethereum, which with a lot of hopes that there's been a rotation from Bitcoin into Ethereum. Here we're bouncing off the floor of that rising trend channel from July. The level there nominally around the 4,200 level. We've got the 50-day line as support rising at 41.64, and at least while we're above that, looking at the top of the channel, as high as 5,500 by the end of next month. The easiest momentum trade here would be to look for an end-of-day close above 4,500, as that's been recent stubborn resistance. As far as the RSI window is concerned, you can see we've been bouncing off that 50 area since the beginning of last month, and that looks as though that's a very strong continuation signal on the upside. So any dips towards that 50-day line currently regarded as buying opportunities. On to gold, and here it's certainly the market which is in the lead at the moment, heading rapidly towards our 3,800 level, top of that rising trend channel. We were looking for that by the end of next month, but the way things are going, I might even get that by the end of this month, which would be very pleasant indeed. On the downside, hoping that we now will have nothing lower than 3,500, which is the recent support of about 3,511, the recent intraday low for this market. Above that, on an end-of-day close basis, 3,800 looks pretty well nailed on. On to the stocks, and starting off with Blencowe, where we're nearly up to the second target there. It took a long time to get to 4.75 pence, but it looks as though the next target there at 6.1 pence should be done perhaps even by the end of today, given the way things are going. The end of next month target now up to 8 pence, which is a resistance line projection from way back in 2021. And we're looking for that, especially while we're above a recent resistance from the autumn of last year, 5.3 pence, above 5.3, looking for 8 easily on Blencowe. So it's like the log jam has finally been cleared on that situation. Moving on to Conroy Gold, where you can see that we've easily managed to hit our first target there at 10 pence, which actually looked rather ambitious. Current situation is that we've got the next level up as high as 22 pence, looking for that by the end of next month, while we remain on the right side of 10 pence. A rather simple, probably rather punchy call there, but it's a punchy time for the shares and obviously for gold stocks at the moment. Need to stay above that 10 pence, as I am hinting. Moving on to Alert, which ALRT, which is Defence Holding, where it seems everyone is there, and their mother is claiming credit for the rise in the shares, which is understandable because obviously that drives traffic and makes you look good. But here we have had our third target hit there at 2 pence. Initially, we were looking for just 0.8, then 1.25. And now 2 pence. If you're a fan of the shares and looking for greater glories, or if just somebody wants to take the credit for the shares going up, then the next level up here could be as high as 3 pence, which is that resistance line projection from back in April, and we'll be looking for that by the end of next month, while we remain above the resistance on the way up around 1.6, above 1.6, looking for 3 pence by the end of October on defence, if everything goes right. Ideally, there's an end of day close back above 2 pence to give us that trigger for 3 pence. Moving on to a stock which has taken quite a long time to get over the line, but today we had a nice RNS, and it looks as though actually the market's been surprised by the performance here. We were already looking for 6.3 pence before recent announcements. We've had double gaps, unfilled gaps to the upside, bullish divergence as well. So above the broken July resistance of 4.3 pence. 6.25 looks like it's nailed on over coming days. Best case would be up to 8 pence by the end of next month. But the key here, I suppose, is staying above 4.3 pence, and also perhaps nothing too painful in the fundraise idea department. Maybe on to Fulcrum, and here I just had a feeling this morning about how hard the company's trying, Ryan, me, etc., and Aidan O'Hara are doing very well at the moment. I think there was an issue of warrants earlier in the week, and it looks as though that seems to be focusing minds in terms of a move at least up to 6 pence by the end of this month. I think the warrants were at 5 pence, and presumably whoever's got the warrants will be looking for at least 10 pence to make the whole thing worthwhile. In fact, we could be looking for best case scenario target as high as 10 pence by the end of next month, if we can get through that 200-day line and 6 pence in the first half of this month, so maybe over the next week or so. But the unfilled gaps to the upside, and also the gap close that we've had, and Bear Trap Island reversal that we've had, as well as shares opening at the low, closing at the high on several occasions in the recent past, does suggest that finally Fulcrum is on its way, which is very pleasing. The hard work paying off there. Moving on to Harena, and here we're looking for this to be the next train that leaves the station in terms of the rare earths and the rare earths going up. Here you can see that we've got this rising trend channel that's been in place since April. We've got bounces generally at and above the RSI 50 level, the last one obviously just below that, but rising 50-day line, and above that at 1.45 pence, looking for 2 pence plus by the end of this month on Harena. On to another stock which was called correctly here, and obviously everyone else is claiming the credit as well. We've got ImmuPharma hitting its second target there at 8 pence. Looked a bit ambitious, but it's managed to do it. And we're actually looking for further upside while we're above recent broken resistance at 6.6 pence. But at least in the near term, the upside hopefully up to the line that I've drawn there as high as 11.5 pence by the end of next month, while we're above 6.6 pence on that particular situation. Metals exploration is next, and here you can see that we've got the shares having already broken the recent target by quite some margin, 9.5 pence. Next target there up to 18 pence. We're looking for that by the end of this month. Obviously, the sector is hotter than July at the moment. Newmark Securities next, and here I'm following up on a sort of a charting inkling that I had that we were in a rising trend channel there from October 2022. In fact, the end of 2021 there, £1.30, looking for that by, I suppose, the end of next month, while we remain above recent broken resistance around the low 80s. So punchy call there, but it looks as though the share's finally on their way. A company which is definitely on its way is Pan African, where we've got a wide rising trend channel. It's been in place since November last year. Top of the channel there, heading for as high as £1.16. We're looking for that maybe by the end of November, while the shares remain above recent broken resistance in the floor of the channel there at 68 pence. On to Rockfire, where was a punchy target there up to 0.22 when the shares were towards 0.1, but managed to blow the lights out on that. In fact, we're looking to blow the lights out on the next target up, which is 0.4 pence, and that's the upper parallel of that broadening triangle that we had there from this time last year, and also basically at the top of the range as well. But I won't expect the shares to easily take out the top of the range, given how improved the lay of the land is for explorers, developers at the moment. Above 0.8, looking for 0.4 on Rockfire. Another company which is doing well and making hay while the sun shines is Serabi. We've got the top of the channel there at £2.53. We're looking for that by the end of this month, while we remain above the initial September resistance, £2.14. Interesting to see that Smarter Web has managed to break its resistance line there, which was around the 114 level, that sort of area. We were looking for the shares to at least test the old July support there, which was around the £1.72 level. That's still what we're looking for by the end of this month. I suppose fundraisers and other antics permitting, and also assuming that we stay on the right side of 130. In the meantime, we've had that support 2 days running. Finishing off with Thruvision, and here it's a slightly complex situation, but what you can see there in terms of the RSIs, we've had multiple RSI 50 rebounds since the unfilled gap to the gap to the upside at the beginning of July. We've got a rising 50-day line, support points above a rising 50-day line with the RSI 50 rebounds. That tends to be a leading indicator on the upside, and that means that we're looking for not only the top of the recent range around 2.6 pence, but actually the 200-day line at 2.8 pence, and expecting that with maybe quite a bang when that actually happens. Upside value while we're above 1.48 pence. So the setup is there. That's it for me today. More updates tomorrow.